we were three hours into the flight. We just had our dinner service. We were getting ready to go to bed. In fact, we were just dozing off when the captain comes on the tannoy, and that's never good news when the captain comes on the tannoy on long haul flight to say that they've got an indication of overheating electronics. And a little later on, it was backed up by a further announcement to say that actually they could smell smoke up the aircraft and in the cockpit. As we were only about an hour northeast of Bermuda, they made the decision to land at Bermuda. All seemed very calm at the time. In fact, lots of passengers didn't know that this was happening. They were quite surprised around us being woken up to say, we're about to land. Oh, by the way, you're landing in Bermuda. And so everything was quite calm, and we landed and we all filed in the terminal thinking that all the while when we landed, there was quite a dramatic scene with fire engines following us and everything, but it's pretty standard procedure really when they do this sort of, not even an emergency landing, but a precautionary landing. So all was quite calm and going smoothly until we got into terminal, and then an hour's wait became 2 hours, 2 hours became 3 hours, and then we first got our first update probably about, we landed about 1:30. We got our first update about 3:30, 4 o'clock or so, essentially to say that they have to run some very thorough checks and they didn't know when we would be able to get out. Around about 5, 6 o'clock or so, they basically came back, the captain came back on the tannoy at the gate to reiterate that they've got to do these tests again. But also because of the rocket launch going on at Cape Canaveral, there will be flight restriction in the airspace, so they wouldn't be able to send a replacement aircraft or another crew out that easily. And all of that we understood. Of course, these things, the airline and the crew can't be helped, and the fact that they took the decision to land. But then the crew at that point, after that last announcement about 5:45, 5:30-ish, they then left the airport. They then went off to their hotel. So it was then left to the local airport staff to essentially manage the situation. An aircraft with 300 plus people, lots of young children, as you can hear, quite a few elderly people who can see. And they proceeded to give us anything they can find on the aircraft in terms of water. They've got a water fountain in the airport, which is very useful, but not everybody's got bottles or glasses that they could drink the water with. And then they started to unload bits of pillows and blankets from the aircraft, which is sort of what we are bedecked with. We found ourselves a headboard in one of these gates, so it looks like an advert for, I don't know, one of the Premier Inns or something. But not everybody is as lucky as us, because some people weren't able to, because they were just so understaffed in terms of the airport staff. So some people weren't able to fetch their blankets and their pillows and all that sort of stuff. So temper started to rise around about 8 o'clock or so, but there's only so much the airport staff can do. They weren't expecting this to happen. The airport staff that greeted us were here before we landed, and they have been here with us still, and they will be here when we leave later on, probably scheduled to leave at 8 o'clock in the evening. So anyway, at the very end, as the captain was leaving for their hotel, he told us that they would be sending out an aircraft from JFK in New York to come and pick us up, and for us to continue our journey from Bermuda to London. They cited again the rocket launch and the closure of the airspace as a reason why it would take so long for the aircraft to come in. But as the morning dawned, and as we got news that actually the rocket launch was being cancelled, and some of us, those of us travel often, we have apps like Flight Radar 24, and we can see what's happening with the airspace and aircraft being managed. And I saw that actually the aircraft coming in from JFK was actually en route from Doha to New York before they would come to us. So yes, they had it organized, but it felt a little bit like smokes and mirrors.